Hi class, today I will be talking about global food rules and how parents around the world teach kids to eat. I'll start with here in America, parents have the habits of developing kids into picky eaters. Parents struggle with the constant dance of providing their kids with food they will eat while also trying to urge them to eat better. In America, food is an expression of who you are as well as an individual. Because of that, American parents end up negotiating with their kids about their food choices. Individualized diets can also be a border to the shared experience of eating and enjoying foods together. In Japanese culture, it's a total 180, where food is meant for pleasure as well as health. Meals needed to be wholesome, healthy, and freshly made. In Japanese culture, what a baby ate was just as important as the attitude towards feeding a child. Presentation also mattered. Food was always appealingly prepared and laid out. In Japan, the thinking is to introduce young kids to a wide variety of tastes and textures, teaching them to appreciate food, teaching them to never waste food, and also training children with a structured mealtime and mealtime behavior. The goal is that children will be able to eat anything. In Sweden, parents show their children love by allowing them to choose for themselves. The lifestyle in Sweden is meals are slower, shorter work days, and decent work-life balance. Children are given the choice, but never make a wrong choice. Children are asked lots of questions of what they want to eat, so they eventually will ask these questions themselves about what would be good for my body. Choice and self-responsibility is underlying to everything. In South Korea, they are tied with Japan at the lowest obesity rate of 4%. Eating is a family event there. Families would usually have potluck gatherings where they share homemade dishes with each other. Important principles of eating in Korea is to eat together as a family whenever possible, with everyone eating the same dishes, family style. For Koreans, food is an expression of love and care. In France, they see teaching children to enjoy food is very important. They educate their children about how to eat. Children aren't allowed to eat at any time and any place between meals. There's no personal choice as well. Eating a variety of food is highly valued countrywide. Enjoying a very wide variety of delicious food is normal and expected. Teaching children to enjoy food is one of life's greatest pleasures in French culture. It's about socially learning to share and learning about their national culture through food. In Italy, kids learn to be suspicious of real food. They raise their kids to think of food as pleasure, which they believe will shape their children's eating habit for the better. They believe shared eating experience create great influence on children to become non-picky eaters. In conclusion of all the worlds that we just traveled, good eating must be taught at a young age. It's shaped by the culture shown and valued at home as well as schools. A balanced approach is what helps best to foster a healthy relationship with food of ourselves and for ourselves and for our children. We must look at food as more than fuel. It's meant to be enjoyed and appreciated as a holistic experience.
In Chapter 3 of Parenting Without Borders, Christine Gross explains how we have built a culture in America where parents often give kids foods that they want, even if these foods that they are feeding their children are not healthy. This has led America into a child obesity epidemic. With kids having the say on what they eat, they choose the foods that taste the best to them, and almost always those foods contain a lot of sugar and fat. While having a personal choice on what we eat is seen by many as a guiding principle, this can become a gateway for children to become so picky on what they eat that you're having to make separate meals for them at dinner time. She states that other cultures such as Japan, Sweden, South Korea, and Italy have used other practices when teaching their children on how to eat healthy and have seen a much lower child obesity rate in their respective countries. In my culture growing up, my parents had certain tricks that they would do in order for me to eat the same foods that they would eat. For example, during dinner, I would always eat the same meals that my parents were eating. However, if one of the courses for dinner was salad, which was not one of my favorites, my parents would make sure that I had ranch to put onto the salad. If we were having chicken, which I was also not very fond of, my parents would make sure that I had barbecue to put onto the chicken so I would eat it. Eventually, as I grew older, I drifted away from using these sugary condiments and started using more healthy options. In my culture as well, my parents would let me eat sugary snacks every now and then. However, I was limited to the amount of snacks that I could have per week. What this chapter boils down to is it talks about all the different styles in which different cultures raise their children, focusing mainly on teaching children how to eat and see food. Here in America, we don't see eating to be an important event or something that needs to be taught. Instead, Americans see eating as fuel and they eat to survive. Although Americans try to eat healthy, it is seen as last on the priority list. Whereas in most other countries, they see eating as a pleasurable, bonding experience that needs to be appreciated. In most other countries, eating healthy and fresh foods is just the standard. Most countries make eating and cooking a family affair that shouldn't be looked at as a task to do, but rather a joy to endure. Most of the countries mentioned in the chapter explain how you raise children to eat will also shape their minds and personality as well. Being open to a wide variety of foods and styles would translate to being open to new experiences in all aspects of life. Children learning how to cook meals at a young age show them responsibility, gratitude, and life skills. This will help children to become more independent and self-sustaining as they work older. It is known that Americans have a problem with obesity, even worse with children becoming obese at young ages. This chapter explains this is caused by Americans' attitude toward foods, which relates to how they teach their children to view food as well. Although we don't have to copy exactly what other cultures do, there is a point to be seen when others are better off than ourselves. As the goal we want for our children is to live a healthy and fulfilling life, we must look at all aspects of what we teach them, including food. Food should be an enjoyment of life rather than a daunting task.